Welcome everybody to the Serpent Tarot for another pick a card. So today's pick a card is another in the sort of series of ones that I do every once in a while, which is kind of about you and about how people respond to you, how you come across. And one of the really important things, I think, though it doesn't always necessarily mean a great deal in terms of longer term relationships, but it's pretty important in a lot of connections that we have, is what first impression we make. So that's what we're going to be looking at today. What first impression do you make? What do people think or feel or respond to when you first walk in a room, when they're first introduced to you, when they're first connected to you in some way? And how accurate is that, and how much do they get wrong? I think for your own life, with your own first impressions about people, you'll probably work out that probably with most people you get at least 50%, if not maybe 80% right in the first impression, but there'll usually be a little bit that's wrong. So we'll just look into what we get for you and give you those insights as well, so you know how to kind of modify what you do or what to emphasize or whatever to get the outcome that you might want. So that's what we're looking at today. Hopefully it'll be fun. These sort of things are fun. They're not really advisory particularly. They're just a kind of a bit of an exploration. So, and you can always choose more than one pile too, because you might find that there's different sort of impacts with different sort of people. We are going to look a bit at that at the beginning, but then we're just going to go pretty much through with a general overview. So you may find going to more than one pile and looking at particularly the beginning part of it might help you work out which ones you really resonate to, and then watch the rest for that one or something, or watch them both. Do whatever you want, basically. You do you. The timestamps, as always, are in the description box below. But to help with the choice, I'm going to use a different tarot deck for each. So what I did is I took out the Fool card, not to sort of suggest that we come across as fools when we first met. I mean, the Fool card, as you know, with tarot is about new things, the initiation, the first point. So I think that sort of makes a lot of sense. And I deliberately picked 3 different decks that I thought had, subtly different ways of looking at the Fool energy, which I'll talk about, because I think that's sort of going to be part of this. So for pile number 1, we've got the Fool card from the White Fly Tarot. For pile number 2, we have the Fool card from the Ornamented Tarot. And for pile number 3, we have the Traveller, which is the Fool card from the Dreams Within Dreams Tarot. So when you know, as I say, what reading or readings you want to go to, I've got the timestamps in the description box below, and I'll see you there. Welcome pile 1 to your reading. So you came to the reading with the Fool card from the White Fly Tarot. And it's really interesting that performing arts turned up there, and we'll talk about this, because what I feel when I look at this particular Fool card is I feel like it's got a performative energy to it. I think about music. I think about the pipes of Pan sort of drawing the people along, sort of getting followers and all that sort of thing, but very musical, very performative, very colourful sort of energy. So I do think that if you're drawn to this reading because of that image, there is a side of you that is very performative, that is very charismatic, very, very seen. The interesting thing is I think you looking at this underneath are really serious, but it's like you take very serious issues and then you finally perform them in some way. Some of you may literally be, this I did feel about music, so some of you may literally be musicians, or you may meet people at music events, and music may be a big part of your life. But otherwise, I think, and it could be any performing art, there is something performative there, definitely. There's also a sense with the culinary arts, some people may meet you at events where food's involved, or may particularly like to socialise with you over a nice meal, or there could be something like that is often a way that you meet people, like you often meet people at parties or at dinners or things like that. That's a possibility. But otherwise, I think there's a sense that people see in the performance a very fine recipe. Like you get it really well done, because they also pick up a range of different things, and they get a sense of this serious thing under the performance when they first see you, even if I think it's a little bit under the surface, but they do pick it up. Because here we have how you come across to those that might see you as a sort of like a social relationship or a love relationship, and this is how you come across to those that you might meet in a kind of career, vocation, or even to some degree hobby, if it's got that kind of sort of sense of doing things energy. So for those that could potentially look at you as a partner or as somebody that they would want to be friends with, you come across as very nurturing. There's a kindness energy. I feel this connects to the culinary arts here. I think there's a sense that you're very sensitive, that whatever you perform, it's not, you are charismatic, I think, but it's not, you're not kind of just look at me, everything is about me. Because I almost think even in this, you see the way the performance arts is shown here, it's like someone with a violin, there's a sort of sense of of maybe being in an orchestra, maybe being with others, supporting others, nurturing the music and so forth. And as I say, the panpipes in a way was drawing people with them, being a bit of a leader, but drawing people with them. And I think this culinary arts, as I say, kind of suggests that this nurturing energy, you come across as someone who is very performative, very bright, very vibrant, but would also care for others. And that really comes across here with Moon and Chiron. Like the emotional energy you give off is very healing. Like if you were someone who did do sort of music or writing or some other, or stage work or acting, any of those sort of things, I think that there's something about your energy that would seem very kind and very, very supportive and very nurturing. So people sense a vibrancy, but they also sense that they're safe. And if they're either going to be interested in you romantically or want to be your friends, they see you as someone who would help them, support them, want them to shine as well. And they think you're magic. It's very interesting because over here with the career stuff, we get the advisor. So it's like there's something like either you meet a lot of people in that kind of a role, you have some sort of consultancy type role, or you are an expert at something, and there is that kind of sense of expertise here that you can advise and help other people with. You may go to a lot of events or whatever, or do a lot of work in that space. That may be how you meet people. So they first see you in that sort of role. But if they do, they see you as really understanding how to brand, like you would be extremely good at how to brand work, how to raise its profile, all that kind of thing. And they also see you as very, very socially adept, a great networker. And when we've got the magician over here, so there's sort of kind of like you draw in, and this is the panpipes thing, when you're looking for love, when you're looking for friendships and connections, you have a great vibrancy there. Now, you may or may not, the interesting thing is that you may or may not be an extrovert. And the difference between extroversion and introversion is really that extroverts get their energy from other people, and it kind of looks like that could be the case. But I think that you may sometimes, with this sort of energy here, underneath, you may need time to yourself. So you may be very close to the extrovert-introvert sort of midway point, because the advisory level and the culinary arts speaks of a first impression where there is a lot of gravitas as well to what you bring. You can nuance things, you understand whatever it is that you're doing in a career sense, in connections with people, and you've got the social element operating across this. You're kind of a bit of a social savant. But underneath that, I think there is a kind of a sense of seriousness. Like I think there is a seriousness, and I think people kind of pick it up. I think it's probably more in terms of if they're dealing with you on a career type of level, even though they'll see this vibrant person, and many times you may meet people over networking events or whatever, that kind of thing, or conferences. But I also think that they kind of sense it with this magician energy here around relationships as well too. They think there's a bit of a mystery to what you do. They think that you've kind of cracked the keys to the kingdom in the way around that sort of stuff, that there's something more. It's not just this very vibrant personality. There's something else that's going on. And that connects with Saturn and Pluto, because Saturn is very, very serious, and Pluto is about big change. So what it's sort of saying, and I think this might be the drumbeat under it that they can kind of pick up, which is why they think you're a magician, which is why they see you as an advisor rather than just a social butterfly and someone who's nice to be around, is that they sense underneath everything there is a big change energy and a big, it's very serious. It's like you're on a direction to something. And so it's sort of a leadership energy here, being particularly able to lead through chaos or confusion. And this is a nurturing energy, but it's also this panpipe sort of thing, because there is also the nurturing energy. So my sense is that most people, when they come across you, and I think a lot of the time, as I say, people meet you at kind of networking events or dinners or things like that. It looks like that happens a lot, or at the performing arts or something like that. I think that there is a vibrancy, a kindness, and there's something they know under the surface. You really kind of know your stuff. There is something like the magician, like the savant about you, and they know that they need to take that seriously. They may not fully understand what it is. Some may be a bit threatened by it. Others will be very drawn to it. So it's a very interesting energy, because it's not, you're kind of both ends of a spectrum in a way, and people pick this up. On one end, it's a sort of very much the brand, the face, the glamour, and on the other end, you're actually the gravitas of understanding how to do something, and you've got a big thing, you've got a big issue, whether it's a career thing or around relationships. Like you wouldn't, for all that you're a social butterfly, when it comes to relationships and love, you are wanting to draw in the one. You don't want to mess around with dating 50 zillion people or whatever. There's a real sense of like, I want to create, and I think you give off the energy that you can create what you're looking for. You can manifest what you're looking for. So let's get tarot to get a little bit more into it. We're going to have a look at what stands out about you when you walk in a room or when you're first introduced. We're then going to sort of see what do people get right, and then also what do they maybe get a bit wrong. So what really stands out the moment that you walk in a room or somebody introduces you to someone? Six of Wands reversed, Seven of Swords reversed, Three of Wands, King of Wands. Wow, it's very, very strong charismatic energy. Five of Swords, Two of Wands. Okay. This is this Pied Piper thing. I think you do, and I don't think, the Pied Piper was a little bit bit worrying what they did, but just as in the sense of somebody who people would follow. I think that the first thing, but the 2 and the 3 there, and then the sense of that particular fill card, there's a real sense that you're going places. There's a real sense that you're on a mission. There's also a sense that you enjoy other people, but you don't have to have them. It's like you're kind of, and you don't need, one of the things that comes across is that the sort of charisma is effortless. You don't have to work at that. You're not interested in other people's approbation. It doesn't even bother you. In fact, it could be that with many, they think, you could be sort of someone, I'll just give an example, that's working with the advisor there, to use as an example, working in a consultancy, for instance, really good with the networking, really good with people, all of those sort of things, but there's sort of something that's a dramatic flair. And some people might think, wow, why aren't you on the stage? Why aren't you? Like, they might think, like, with what you have, why aren't you doing more? But you're not interested in, the glittering prizes. You've got a much more serious thing that you're trying to do, and you're very realistic about it. But I think that it might confuse people a bit, because they might think this person is so vibrant or whatever, like whatever this is, why are they, like, rather than being the advisor, why aren't you the CEO or something? And you may well be at some point in your life, but at the moment, this is sort of how the energy operates. And I just think that people think that you're just kind of, you're not egotistical. This may also be the nurture element. For all that you sort of come across as very dramatic, it's not all about you. You actually focus a great deal on the other person and what they need and so forth. And that's part of the magic of what you do. So it's sort of like they don't see you as egotistical, even though they see you as very dramatic. But I think for some, they might think, wow, I could see this person on the stage or something like that. I do think you're very realistic. Think that if you say this is a direction, that it's worth going on. There's something about when you speak, the way you articulate, it's very, very strong, very inspiring as well. And there's something a bit no-nonsense about you with the Five of Swords. There's a sense, I think, that you give off that if something isn't working, you can course correct and move on. You're not sort of going to battle something that isn't worth battling, and certainly not the petty stuff. So I just think that you give off this sort of energy of someone who's going places, but it's the places you want to go, not necessarily what everybody would expect of you. But in some ways that makes you come across as just so realistic and so worth listening to. So there's a very strong energy that you give off right from the beginning, and it's partly about the way that you present yourself. So what do people get right? What are they getting right about you in this first impression? The Hierophant reversed, the Page of Pentacles reversed, the Seven of Pentacles, the Five of Wands, the Knight of Wands. Okay. So, firstly, they get right that you're different to, this is what I'm feeling here. It's sort of like, I think they look at you and they think, maybe, and you could be doing so much more, but there's something that's different about you, or your path is different. A bit like, again, the Pied Piper, your path is different. So you're not necessarily, you could be very successful in what you're doing in your career. You could be very successful around relationships, but it's not conventional necessarily, and that's right. You are really on your own path, and you won't be dissuaded from that. What they also get right is that some of this is a bit effortless, because with the Page of Pentacles reverse, I feel like you don't kind of sit and plan it all out on any level at all. You just need to be able to grow things and make them develop just from kind of your attention almost, the fact that you care about it, the fact that you want to see it balanced. You do that, it's magical. It's not it's not sort of like you sitting and labouring over a business plan, for instance. It's like they see that you're different, that doesn't necessarily apply, but nevertheless you can actually achieve things. They may think, and it could be right, because this is that you are prepared to have a battle if it's necessary. So you're prepared. This is part of being different. You would stand up for yourself. If you're sort of someone who, say, in a corporate environment, just to give you an example, in a corporate environment, you're very diverse in your background and, you know, like your sort of beliefs or your sexuality or any of those sort of things, you're going to show it, and you're just, and like, damn the consequences. You'll get away with it though, because although you understand the limit to take that to and not to take it any further. This is this very culinary art. You're very finely attuned to what you can do and how far. There's a thing called the Overton window, which is the concept that culture shifts with sort of small increments of changing viewpoints. And so you're almost sort of someone who would push the Overton window wherever you were, in relationships, in career or whatever. And you kind of know how far to push it. So without making a huge battle, but you're prepared to do that because you are about change, you are about something different, you are about healing something in the change. But it's finely nuanced, and people get that right. They can sort of see that it is kind of effortless. So what do they get wrong? What in this first impression would they think about you that wouldn't be right? The Star reversed, okay. The Knight of Swords, the Page of Swords reversed, the Emperor reversed. Okay. What they're getting wrong is they don't understand, if they get something wrong, they don't understand how serious you are about what you're doing. They think that you are what you represent is so rebellious that you're not, like, as I say, I think when they first come across you, they think, you know, why aren't you, you know, if you're an advisor, why aren't you the sort of head of a team? Why aren't you the CEO? All of which you could be in some point. It's just like, this is like what's going on right now. So it's just an example. But they think that you're very anti-establishment as opposed to different. So there's a nuance there. You're not necessarily anti-establishment. You just want establishment. You see that there is some point in order and in growing things and so forth and having some sort of rules and boundaries. It's just that you want to stretch them a bit. So some people think you're a real sort of anarchist when really you're just more of a change agent. They also think that you are very much in your head. It's very clever. Some people will look at this and see the magic and be really intrigued. Some will be a little bit like, oh, can I trust this person, you know? And others think that you don't have ambition, but you do. It's just a different sort of ambition. Your ambition isn't really personal, like I must be the CEO. If you ended up being the CEO, it would be because you're trying to achieve a change, not because you need that. But people think you're anti-establishment, you don't have ambition, and you're kind of a little bit hard to predict. They're not understanding, if they're getting you wrong, they're not understanding that there is a very finely balanced thing going on here with you. And I'm seeing a lot of this around the career stuff, but also with like romantic relationships. People think, they may think that you wouldn't stay long, that you're not for the long-term relationship and so forth, or that you don't even sort of see yourself as being as attractive as you are and a little bit unpredictable. They definitely would wonder whether you would want to do things like, you know, move in or get married. And like, you may or may not want to. That's completely up to you. But I think people see the performative side, which is somehow really showing the change energy and the difference, as being more powerful than the other side. And this is why we've got the culinary arts. Like, as I say, there could be something you might love, good food and all that kind of thing, and good on you, so do I. But I think the culinary arts there is that your recipe is very finely balanced. The ingredients are very finely balanced. But I think that some people, it's like if they were eating laksa or something, they might really notice that the ingredients that are making it really hot, if they are very sensitive to that, as opposed to all the richness of all the ingredients. So I think this is what we're looking at here in terms of where people get something wrong. So let's have a look with some oracle cards about some other stuff. So let's first of all ask about what feelings you evoke when you first meet people. And this could be anything from very positive stuff through to jealousy, it could be anything. But it's just, as a general rule, I'm just going to use a deck that has a number of feelings in it, just to see the feelings that you tend to evoke with your first impressions. Romantic, okay, people find you very attractive. That doesn't surprise me, that magic there. If you wanted to draw somebody in, definitely, and it is something very charismatic and attractive about you. And cheerful. Yeah, you cheer up a room. You're a social butterfly. People enjoy being around you. Even if they're sort of wondering whether you're really anarchic or whatever, they still sort of, people find you fun. They find you good energy to be around. Warm-hearted. Yeah, this is the nurturer. They do feel you care. This might be also why they somehow don't understand the change and the importance of what you're trying to do, because they may think you're so warm-hearted that they may, in their worldview, people who are change agents and you know, do big social, political or organisational change, they're very kind of emperor-ish. Do you know what I mean? Like they won't necessarily see what you're doing because they're sort of focusing on this. And playful. Okay, so they're all really positive. Like that's nice. There's plenty of challenging cards in this deck, let me tell you. But like this, basically, your energy is very much like this Fool. So I think most people like you when they come across you. Some may think, are you going to be a bit too much or whatever? But they're getting it wrong. But like there is a misunderstanding of how finely tuned you are. But people really enjoy your energy. They enjoy you. They see you as fun to be around. That's a social butterfly. That makes sense. So what personality? We'll look at personality aspects too. Now, I'm using a deck. I'm going to pull out 3 cards for this that have a personality aspect, and they have where it works well and where it doesn't work well. So we'll have a look at where it works at its best when in the first impressions, but also where people might get the wrong impression about you. So it's just worth being aware of both aspects of this. So we firstly have benevolence. Yeah, like people think you're really kind. And so definitely munificence, helping people or whatever, particularly when you're in some sort of advisory, helpful, nurturing sort of role. Well, that's the energy of it. Now, what they could get wrong with this, depending upon the context and how they see it played out, they could think you were a sycophant. So they could feel that you just say to everybody what they want to hear, particularly say if they met you in a work function, for instance, and you were being very nice to the bosses. They might think it's sycophantic. They may not notice that you're nice to everybody, that there's no differentiation. So be aware of that. And there's also selfishness. So they may think that you're doing it for something. So that what's the hidden agenda here? In both of those cases, I think it might tell you more about the person who's assessing you than you, but it's worth being aware that could happen. Then we have acquisitiveness. Okay. So I think this is the thing where I think that they're going to be looking at and thinking, you know, you should be like at the top of your career, or if you're at the top of the career, you should be even further, or you know, like there's sort of something there where something about you and the outcome, the material outcome, really captivates them and interests them, because I think they think you should be able to sort of draw in more. So they may be focusing on what you are, and they may think that there's an agenda under here. So if you are succeeding, if the context in which you're meeting people, you're sort of like, you know, it's for a promotion or something like that, they may think it's avarice. They may misunderstand what you're doing. And profuseness, they may feel that it's all show. Like, so if you, for instance, like with the culinary arts, the performing arts, if you sort of, you know, drew people in a party and you'd actually put a lot of sort of money and time into making it really wonderful because you wanted a great, nurturing, magical experience for people, some people might think that's just too much. So that's interesting. And lastly, firmness. Okay, so this could come at fortitude, that I'm going to be on my own battle. I'm different, and there's definitely a sense that you give across of being different. Some people would see that as very strong, and that's a really nice thing to do. But some may think willful, that you'd break the rules, or you just, it's your way or the highway. And others think with obstinacy that you might be really stubborn. Like they might think, you know, this person's, it's got to be what they want, and they're going to do it in their time, and that kind of thing. So those are 3 things, like how you could bring things in, this magical ability to manifest, the kindness, and also that you are who you are. They can be both working really well on the way that people perceive you, but they also can be misunderstood. So be aware of that. Okay. So those are some personality sort of aspects and so forth, and how people sort of respond to you. Let's also look a little bit spiritually. Let's see a couple of spiritual examples of how you come across. So angels or gods or goddesses, that kind of thing. Just again, this is just meant to show aspects of how you come across to people, but on the kind of more spiritual level, of spiritual energy. Archangel Uriel, illumination, inner power, ideas into form. Yeah, that you definitely seem like a magician. saying, particularly to those who might be interested in a social connection with you or a romantic connection, but you definitely seem like a magician, and you illuminate things. You let people see the truth in something, and they do see a lot of inner power in you. Like, you have quite a formidable personality, I think, even in a first impression, for this to come across. And Archangel Raphael, intuition, health, healing. Yeah, you're a healing, nurturing energy. This is this sort of side of things. It's sort of like there's an understanding that to the degree that you can manifest, that you have this magic, it's because you actually are other person centered, and you do actually heal others. Like, there's a very warm, good reason behind everything that you're doing. I think those sort of spiritual elements within you, people respond to. So let's also see what the stars say about how you come across. Fourth house, nurture a home. You might seem like a bit of a homebody. You might be again a bit of a mystery to people, because I think there's a side of you that looks like it would travel, move up the ladder, be performative, all that kind of thing. But there is a very, very kind, nurturing energy as well too. And it may be that the interesting thing, I said at the beginning, I felt like you were very close to the introvert extrovert. What might surprise people about you is that you do need time with just the people that you're closest to, or just on your own. And you may even work from home or something like that. There's a sort of a sense of you're very, very much about protecting your home base and being in your home base. And family, I think you'd have a very strong family connection. The 12th house, yeah, there's a lot that's private about you. Very spiritual, I think. Very psychic, probably, with the 12th house. And people pick that up, again, the magician. Be even probably more the case if it was the 8th house. But both those houses are very kind of spiritual, psychic, magic-y sort of energy. But I think very private. Like, this is what I say, like, I think there's a side of you, and it is a side of you, it's true, that is sort of performative and dramatic and charismatic and very other person centered, but you have a lot of private depths, and that was showing up with the astrology. And people kind of pick it up. And most people pick it up in a benign way, but some may think, can I trust you, because of that, picking up some of the other stuff that we've seen. That's true of everybody. Don't worry too much about it. Just be aware of it. And the first house, well, it's all about the houses for you. So what is core to you that gives you a sense of like the grounding and what you want to be, who you really are, so your journey, what you keep private, and then what you show to the world. This is the recipe. This is the recipe. There's something very deep and private and spiritual you're dealing with. You show it to the world, but you protect it. That's what this is saying. Okay, so just to finish off, what we're going to do is we're just going to draw a wild card just for like one last sort of piece of information in the puzzle about your first impression. But I think your first impression is very good. And I think it's pretty close. I think most people get it pretty right. Just some people don't fully understand what you're doing, I think. And maybe over time, because this is only the first impression, they come to understand it, or you come to see that, they're projecting stuff on you. And I think that might happen a bit with you. So we have rest. Take a break, pause, inaction, time off. So the 4th house, this is maybe the bit that you're neglecting. So I think that people see you as on all the time. And it might be more true than not true, but you do need this as well too. You do need your time out. So some people actually, when they see, they might almost think this person's going to burn out. They're burning the candle at both ends or whatever. So just be aware of that. You do need some time out. I think that's more just spirit saying, you don't have to be on all the time. People will understand. So I hope that resonated. I hope that was a bit of fun. It's a really cool first impression, I have to say. I'm sure I'd enjoy meeting you with this sort of energy. So I hope you enjoyed the reading. If so, please like and subscribe. If you care to share in the comments, I'd love to hear. Otherwise, I hope to see you in future readings. Welcome, Pile 2, to your reading. So you chose the reading with the Fool card from the Ornamented Tarot. And as I said in the introduction, I chose decks which had very different feelings around the Fool card because I felt that's kind of relevant to first impressions. And this one, to me, the typical, the Rider-Waite-Smith Fool card, has the person about to jump off a cliff and the dog's trying to stop them. In this one, I get a sense of someone who's going on a bit of an exploration, on a bit of an adventure. They've got their loyal companion with them. And it feels sort of contemplative and calm and explorative. there doesn't be, it's more like, isn't this exciting? Let's see what's going to happen. But there isn't this sort of sense of imminent danger. Like I almost feel like this Fool card is like what I often read the Fool reversed as, which is sort of someone who's been through the first sort of stages of going through the life cycle and understanding the world, and now actually really does understand it. This sort of has a sense of someone who likes time out and likes to look at new horizons, but to do it in a sort of steady and unhurried sort of way. And there's a sort of a friendly sense, but there's also a sense almost of introspection. Like I almost feel, when I looked at it, I felt there's almost like a dual energy here, and one energy feels like it's explorative and would expand people and all that kind of thing. The other thing is it sometimes very much just wanting to be on your own and your own inner world. And that sort of shows up in a kind of a similar sort of energy here with these other cards that show, on one hand, I think you may be someone who either is seen as one of two very distinct things, depending upon who you meet and in what context, or it may be that people see you as a little bit of a kind of a chameleon, not in a untrustworthy way, but in a way that it's sort of like, it's almost, you are what you need to be, very calm and able to be what you need to be in whatever situation you're in, and you're open to learning and seeing new things and all that kind of stuff. So with that sort of energy over here, this is how you come across to people who are meeting you, who could be prospective lovers or prospective friends. So the social context. These are people who would be largely meeting you in something to do with career, vocation, your creative world, your life path on that level in some way. These are just some other aspects, and this is some astrology kind of energy that you would probably sort of give off to people. Now, the interesting thing is with the astrology, if I jump to that first, the sun is one of the two in both of these. I think you are seen to be someone who is very clear what your path is. And I think this almost, there's this sense of calm. I think you come across as someone who just sort of knows what they're doing, and they're not necessarily hurried, but they're not going too slow either. And you know who you are. Like, I think you very much give off the energy that you know who you are. But having said that, you're open to learning more. Partly because over here with one of the sort of social energies, we have the student, which is about people willing to learn and grow in love and in relationships. So it's not like you think, oh, I've worked it all out, that's all there is to it. You certainly give the sense that you're prepared to communicate with others and connect with others, heal within yourself, heal others, all those sort of things. You're a work in progress, but you're just pretty comfortable with how far you've come, and it's sort of like you have that. I often say people who are self-actualized are the ones who really can do the work, whether it's shadow work or anything, because they've got to the point where they feel pretty comfortable with who they are. Therefore, seeing the things they might need to shift or change is not as threatening. You just think, oh, yeah, okay, I can do that. I can be wrong sometimes. It's okay. It's not a problem as long as I learn. So you give across that energy. You give across an energy of being open to exploring in relationships, but being very clever about it. Like you really have worked a lot of things out, and you do know who you are. And I think sometimes the people who really know who they are and they have that very sort of directed life path in many ways come across as strategic, particularly in relationships. So these, they seem like they have a plan, and this is how you're coming across. But, you are actually also open to learning, changing and growing, so you're flexible. But I think that sort of sense of self-assuredness makes people think, oh, you've kind of worked it all out and you've got a strategy. And, you might to some degree, but I think in terms of having an actual strategy, but I think it's actually just more that you're open because you feel okay in yourself. You may have a very strong wish for children, or you may be very good with children. So children might really respond very positively to you, and like that sort of energy that you give off. Or it just may that you have a nurturing sort of energy with the healing energy of Chiron here. But you're also very able to be in social situations. You're not shy. It's not that there's anything wrong with being shy. I'm very shy, so I'm not going to criticize that. But you're not shy. So even if there's this introspective time on your own type of energy that you might give off, like you are on your own path, and it is a path, it's a serious path, you're on a life path, you're not just having fun all the time. Nevertheless, you can seem to have fun, and you probably actually use that more around work and connection, being able to network and so forth, because it's falling on the side of that. And here, like, people see you in work context as a problem solver and a talent scout, so see, looking for something. I think you nurture people. I think you've achieved enough that people would listen to you about who is talented. And you really have a sense, and this might be the children energy here as well too. It's not so much that the people you're finding are children, but it's like you have that same thing of I want to see talent, I want to see I want to actually nurture and support others who are doing something. So you have that kind of energy that you give off. And it's like you kind of know how to work the system and actually help people expand. You'd be an amazing mentor, coach, talent scout, literally, that kind of energy. But you give off this sort of sense that you can connect with people, understand them, that you'd really want them to do the best that they could do. And some may think that makes you very strategic, but I just think you just know who you are. So you're not caught up in the ego issues when you're not sure about that, where you have to compete. You're not a competitive person on that level. You're a collaborative person. Okay, so let's see what tarot has to say. So we're going to firstly just get a little bit more about, what stands out about you when you walk in a room or you're first introduced to someone. Then we're going to say, what do people get right, and then what do they get wrong? So we're just going to get a little bit more information through tarot to add to this sort of vision of how you come across with a first impression. So the Tower, wow, okay. With this very calm energy, that's interesting. The Nine of Wands, okay, all right, now it makes a bit of sense. Two of Cups reversed. King of Cups, the World, wow, Three of Swords. Okay, so firstly, what I would say is you probably, and this is why we've probably got the student and the strategist here, when you first meet people, you probably don't come across like you're looking for love or that it's about social energy. It doesn't mean that you won't be social, but with the Two of Cups reversed, that won't be the first focus. It could very well develop, but it's like you're not. Even if you're in a social environment, that's not the first thing you're looking for. If it comes along, I think you'd be quite open to it. But it's not. You're not likely, I would think, to be the sort of person who's on dating sites and things like that. And there's nothing wrong with doing that. But I feel like your first impression, your first connection doesn't tend to be about that, even though things may develop over time. I think it's much more around helping people with change, helping people become who they could be. I think that you vary with the King of Cups here. This is the Chiron, and you come across as someone who's got a great depth of emotional energy, a great deal of wisdom, and it's like it's not about you either. It's like if you were meeting someone and you were looking at helping them solve a problem or find their talent or connect with them and learn in a relationship. You're much more focused on the other person, and it's much more about what they have to bring to the table that you'll focus on. Like you'd be the sort of person who, people talk about it, the people who make someone feel like they're the only person in the room. And that's the energy that you give off when you meet someone, because you're genuinely interested. So say you're quite comfortable in yourself, so other people fascinate you. And it's a naturally kind, generous, emotionally balanced energy. It could be an issue for you sometimes though. If you have met people that you are not ever going to be romantically interested in, just something to be aware of. With that energy together, you may make them feel like that's there. Like you might have a lot of people who fall for you because they feel like that's the energy you're giving off. But that's not what you're doing. So it's just something to be aware of. Sometimes it will be, but if it isn't, be aware of that, because it's a very powerful energy. You are helping people keep going in situations. I don't know whether this is something you do in a job, or whether it's just something you do generally. When there's a lot of change, people would naturally gravitate to you. If you meet in the context of a lot of change going on, it's like you're the person that gives the energy to keep on keeping on, to get to the end. So this is the strategist energy and so forth. But there's something, I think, that you often meet people in the context of change for some reason. And I think you help them right from the beginning, sort of the problem solver, to relieve some of the pain so that they can complete one cycle and go into the new. So there's just something about that. Like I think you would have friends who come to you to help with change and to know who they are and to sort of feel able to sort of move forward. But I also think they'd almost introduce you to people that needed the same sort of thing, because there's something in that. It's like because you've kind of got to a level of calm about it, you can be calm in the middle of a storm. You're the energy that keeps it going. Very, very caring. So it's interesting. It almost makes me feel that many of you meet people more often than not for those sort of reasons. Now, it's not going to be everybody. If you do meet people outside of that, I still think you almost naturally draw people in who instinctively come to you for that kind of safe harbour, because they are in their own lives, even if it isn't obvious at the beginning, going through something like that. So that's interesting. So what do people get right about you when they first meet you? Eight of Swords reversed, Three of Pentacles reversed, Two of Swords, the Chariot, the Sun reversed. Okay, what they get right. Firstly, that you are kind of freed from a lot of mental things. You with the Eight of Swords reversed and the Sun reversed, I think this is saying that you kind of liberated yourself from just the pursuit of your own life path. You are on your life path, but you focus in a different way because you've achieved something. And you could have, you don't have to be at a particular age or at a particular level in a workplace or anything for this. You're kind of freed of the need to make it all about you. You're kind of freed of the need to just be thinking about your life path. I just feel like many of you, as I say, have inwardly achieved it or even externally achieved it. And they're right about that you are open to exploration and possibility rather than driven. However, they also see that once you make a decision, you just get on with it, with the Chariot. And I think that people get right about you, and they get it more right about you than you get about yourself, to be honest, that while you aren't driven by an egoic need, you are driven by other things. And I think some of it is about what disturbs you, and this is the social butterfly, but working in a different way. What disturbs you is when there is dissonance between people. You like the energy that brings all kinds of different and diverse energies and abilities together. It helps solve problems. It helps find the talents. You like that. You're driven to do something when you sense that sort of energy. But it's about that, not about your life path. But interestingly enough, you're more driven than you appear. You're more driven than you think you are, actually. And people are right about that. So if people sort of think you're ambitious or you're kind of really moving on always, you might think, oh, no, I'm not. I'm just wanting to have a little bit of an amble near the beach one day. But actually, they're right about that. And I think they're more right about that for many of you than you are about yourself with that. You are right that it's not an egoic thing, but you're still very driven. So let's see, what do they get wrong? What could they potentially misunderstand? Queen of Pentacles. Knight of Cups. Oh, yeah, this is what I was saying before. It's a particular energy that someone like you needs to be aware of. Four of Swords. Knight of Pentacles. Okay, all right. This is a particular dynamic. The issue is going to occur in a particular situation. Most of the time, this is going to occur around love, but it can also occur in work. What it is that there is something about you, the intensity of interest you have in the other person that does, as I say, make the other person feel like the most important person in the room. And so they may sometimes think that you have dedicated to them in some way that you're not actually doing. You're just seeing them, you're enjoying who they are, you're wanting to sort of see their talents, you're wanting to see them work, but you kind of would go off and do it with someone else because it's about the group and it's about everybody exploring. But I think sometimes people find that energy that you bring, they think that you've made a kind of almost romantic or emotional commitment to them. And then if you aren't always there, if you seem to disappear, they feel like you've abandoned them. So it's just something to be aware of. I've seen this happen with charismatic people at work, actually, and I think I've talked about it before in other readings. It's a particular thing, and it comes from the intensity of what you're trying to do. And the fact, as I say, people see you as ambitious and driven, whether it's in work or around love. And you see, this is where this could kind of be this student and the strategist. It's kind of like you make a study of the person. You're so fascinated with them, but you're fascinated with everybody. And if you're in love with them, fine, you will stay fascinated and that's fine. But for those that are experiencing that energy and that's not what it's about, it suddenly feels strategic. It suddenly feels false. So just be aware of that because it's a power that you have, but you have to understand how people actually respond to that. Okay, so let's have a little bit of a look with some other oracles. So firstly, I'm using a deck that has feelings. So it has both positive and negative feelings. So this is just as to see how people feel when they first come across you. So in the first impression. Because really what they get wrong probably starts to show up later when the first impression, that part of the first impression isn't followed through. So this is just first impressions, and it could have challenges. It could have really good energies. It'll probably pick up if people are jealous of you or threatened by all those sort of things. So the feelings you evoke. So firstly, frustrated. Okay, this is whatever this energy is, and it may kick in quite early. It probably depends upon the context. So if you're in a very large group of people and you're going one-to-one, the person might feel it and then not like the fact that they see you doing it to others, for instance. Or they may feel they want more. Or some of them may feel that you're so focused on them they don't want that. The boundaries, they're going, no, kind of don't. They might be around very private people. It might be a bit much. Resentful. Okay, yeah, this is definitely picking up this energy. You do need to be aware of it. Are you giving your attention fairly? What I get here too, it's not going to be first impressions if you have children, because you have children, but there could be sort of something that goes on with people who have almost a childish relationship to you. So be aware of that. So this is not going to be everything. Most people are finding you very warm and helpful and all that kind of thing, but it's interesting that you're also evoking these feelings. Content, whereas others are happy. They really like what you're doing. They're enjoying it, So it just depends. This is showing you probably more about the expectations of the people when they meet you. But, a lot of people are very happy when they meet you. And sorry, I almost dropped the card, so I'm going to shuffle again. When that sort of happens, that's what I do. Angry. Yeah, look, okay. So this is overall, it's a good energy, but Spirit is definitely saying be aware that the nature of this energy can cause this sort of thing. So you have to kind of calibrate it a bit, because not everybody is as calm within themselves. That could be the other thing too, is that if you come across as just being very happy with who you are, some people might think, well, you had it easy, or, or you're just privileged, or, you're self-satisfied. So to be aware of that could be coming, that's not where you're coming from. It would be absolutely wrong. But there is something here where people get drawn in and think that you're going to be just with them, or it's all about them, and then it's not, and they get this energy. It's definitely something you have to be aware of. It's what charismatic people have to deal with. So even though this feels really introspective and quiet, you have a quiet, enduring charisma, and you have to be aware that it's a good thing to have on one level, but it's a bit of a dangerous thing to have on another level. You have to know how people respond to that. So to get a little bit more depth with that, I've also got a deck that has personality aspects. So this is personality aspects that you come across as being, and it has both the positive and the negative. So it's important to understand both. So we're just going to get 3 cards from this deck. So firstly, benevolence. That's interesting. That came up for one of the others. So there are people who see what you do as very kind, very benevolent. You solve problems. You see their talents. You're open to learning in relationships, all of that kind of thing. Children, nurturing, social butterfly, fun to be around, all of that kind of thing. And as I say, you draw in people consciously or unconsciously who are looking for someone to give them the emotional support and self-belief to get through things. So that's definitely there. But if people misinterpret it, they may think that what appears to be kindness is with selfishness, there's something in it for you. So they're thinking you're being the strategist, or sycophancy. Now this can be, depending upon the context that you might meet people, if you were equally benevolent and kind and open to people who were powerful around it and people who aren't, some might look at that and not see that it was the case with the others that weren't. They might just see you doing it with powerful people and think, oh, this person's just sort of being a sycophant. So that, it could be misunderstood on that level. And again, that resentment could happen. So, if you were someone who was, purporting to be supporting people on a claim within a workplace, for instance, and you were very strongly connected with them, and then you were actually able to go and strategically deal with the managers, people might think, oh, you're actually on their side, that kind of thing, just as an example. It's the people who see it and like it, understand it for what it is. The others think it's a tactic. And this is where we've got the strategist thing to be aware of. Then we've got calculation, assessment. So some people see you as really understanding it, the problem solver, the person who is always a student and understands, and then the strategy becomes something good that takes it forward. You're really, really wise in the way that you assess things and understand things. But some may think you're manipulative, and some may think you're negligent. You decide where you're going to put your energy, particularly if they felt like they were central to you and then they feel like they aren't anymore. You get all these sort of frustrated, resentful energies. So as I say, this is all about, you have a particular talent, a particular skill, a particular energy that is very, very positive in most cases, but occasionally can be really misunderstood. I think that's what this says. And touch, sensitivity. So this is the King of Cups. Working at its best, people think you're very sensitive, very nurturing, all of those sort of things. But they sometimes, if you then go off and you're with someone else or whatever, or it's all just about solving the problems and not about the person, they may think you're numb, or they may think that you're tense in some way. If you're responding to an energy and you're picking up some of these sort of energies, they may think you're being tense rather than sensitive. So if they're feeling that they've been left behind or they're not being heard or whatever it is, because they're not understanding you're listening to a lot of things and they're not the only one, they may think that you're actually getting tense if they're trying to talk to you. You know, they may project a lot of that on you. So it's just interesting. It's something that you have to be aware of and balance, pole 2. Okay, so to help with that, let's get you some spiritual energy. What spiritual energy do you give off? And you can access to get the best possible first impression. Archangel Raziel, mystery, secrets, protect knowledge. Yeah, you do understand. You are strategic. You do understand things. You have reached a particular level and you give that energy off. And for some people that's wonderful because they want to learn from you and they can see that you learn also from them. Like there's a kind of exchange. But for others, you feel a little bit distant. Archangel Raziel is connected to Hokmah, and Hokmah is the most distant Sephiroth from Earth, and it's kind of a little bit alien sometimes. So you might, if people don't understand you, they might just think you're actually kind of calculating and strategic. But that's not true. You're actually very warm. And Archangel Metatron, so you've got Hokmah and Keter. So spiritual power, esoteric knowledge. Yeah, they know you know something. You've got to a particular level. Definitely. And for those that are, what I think it is that for those that are self-actualized enough in themselves, even if they aren't as self-actualized as you, that's going to be a wonderful thing. They're going to come to you. They're going to feel the energy. They're going to know that it's coming from a kind and benefic place. They're going to enjoy the attention that they get and all of those sort of things, but they're not going to need it, you know, any more than you need it from someone else. But if you come across people who aren't self-actualized, that's when that energy is going to come in. But remember, you are coming from a very good spiritual place. So it's not really saying do things differently. Let's see how the stars can guide you. Mutable, being flexible. But this is part of who you are, you know, and people do pick this up. They see that you're flexible. It's just, as I say, some people might not want you to be that flexible. They might want you to be really focused on them. But it's understanding that and nuancing what you do would be really helpful for you. We have the North Node. You're heading towards what you're meant to do. And the sort of energy about being the problem solver, the strategist, all these things are good because they come from a good place. It's what you're meant to be doing. And I think you help other people find with the talents, you know, with what are they meant to complete and what are they meant to do next. You actually help people with that. And Pisces, very psychic, very sensitive, King of Cups, very sensitive, very connected to others, probably very telepathic, all of those energies. And that helps you be mutable and understand. But Pisces is also very immersive. And I think this might be a dual message for you. So on one side, it is that you're very psychic, telepathic, and sensitive. But Pisces themselves can, because of that, I remember astrologers saying, and I thought it was such an interesting way to say it, because Pisces is the 12th sign, it starts with Aries and goes all the way around. By the time you get to Pisces, there's a bit of everything within Pisces. So sometimes boundaries is a little bit hard for Pisces to you know, because they're almost full of everything in a way. So you may find that it's particularly people who have that high degree of sensitivity and maybe a little bit of lack of boundaries that particularly struggle with if you're not focused on them all the time. It doesn't mean they have to be a Pisces sun sign. I'm just saying that kind of energy could be something to deal with. Okay, so to finish off, we're also going to get a wild card from the Blue Dragonfly deck for just something else either to consider around your first impression or something else around what that first impression is. Divine Feminine. Okay, so you come across very much like that. So, you know, if people were trying to say, and this doesn't matter what your gender is, they would feel more divine feminine energy from you than divine masculine, abundance, growth, artistic project. Yeah, you're all about growth and about talent and about taking things forward. But that might also be the children thing. Remember what happens with kids if you're a mother and you've got 2 kids and they're kind of pretty close in age. You obviously have to deal with sibling rivalry and who is the mother like paying more attention to. There's something like that you have to be aware of. You come from a really good place and people really respond to it, but you're triggering some really primal things in people about whether they're loved, whether they're cared for, whether they're worthy. So because you are someone who can find worth, they're looking for that from you. So I hope that resonates for you. I hope it was helpful. If so, please like the video and subscribe. If you care to share in the comments, I'd love to hear. Otherwise, I hope to see you in future readings. Welcome, Pile 3, to your reading. So you came to the reading with the Traveller, so the Fool card from the Dreams Within Dreams Tarot. And as I said in the introduction, I feel like each of these Fool cards, that's why I chose these decks, give off a kind of different energy. In the Rider-Waite-Smith classic deck, you've got the Fool dancing on the cliff top about to jump off, whereas the ones that I've chosen have a different energy, and I did that very deliberately. So this one, to me, it's a bit similar to the second pile in the sort of imagery, but I also think it's got a nuanced difference, because in the second pile I felt like there was a sense of somebody exploring in a very calm way, not with any particular destination in mind, sort of just testing everything out because they were pretty happy with where they were and they were just enjoying. This one is like the person who is really starting a very big journey. Like they're heading down a pathway eventually to get to the mountains, I feel. They've got their kit bag, they're ready to do it. And it really makes me think of something, and I've mentioned it sometimes in career readings, both privately and also on this channel, of something that was said to me by a career strategist really early in my sort of career. And it was about the concept that there are many ways to get your light on the hill or to the top of the mountain. And there are many roads. And it's sort of like you don't just have to think there's only one, and if that doesn't work, you fail. Because the reality is that as long as whatever byways or pathways you take are still taking you to the light on the hill, even if they're a little bit of a sort of circuitous thing, or if they're a lateral move that like you just explore something, whatever it is, as long as it's still taking you there, that's all you need to worry about. Beyond that, everything will look after itself. And I thought that was a very wise thing. And there's an energy like that about this. I think that you come across in first impression, and I think this is true, that you are very much the explorer. You're very much the person who's got big ambitions. But you know what? You're confident. You're ready for the trip. You're ready for all the choices that could come up around that. So you give a sense of, I've got this, that kind of energy, and and I'm going to get there. I will get to that. I have no doubt this person here is going to get to the top of that mountain. I have no doubt at all, and I have no doubt at all that you will get to the top of whatever mountain you want. And I think you give off that energy. Then it's really interesting. On this side, we have energy around how people kind of see you around your career, vocation, ambition, creativity. And this is sort of more around sort of either romance or social events. And this is just a general energy astrologically. So what I would say first of all is with Mercury, your communication skills are off the charts. So you're probably the sort of person who, even though you do like a little bit of time on your own and you wouldn't necessarily see yourself as an out and out social butterfly, you're very good at adjusting what you say to your audience. You're very good at talking. You're probably good at small talk, but also you could sit down and have a really deep conversation with someone. Like your skills, your communication skills are off the charts. And that is one of the first things that people are really going to see about you. Some people may literally see you in the context of giving a speech or something like that. But others, it's just your level of fluency with your language or a number of languages. It's possible that some of you with this sort of traveling energy may in fact be fluent with a lot of languages. But whatever it is, that's off the charts, and people really see that. And you're clever, you're quick, you respond to things quickly, you pick up verbal cues in particular very quickly. You're also a little bit mysterious because that seems very open, but there's a sense that there's also something you're not showing, or there are depths that you're not showing. Like this could almost be that mercurial energy that's funny and witty and clever, and people pick that up, but they also know there's ideals under this and something very deep driving it with Neptune and Pluto. So this is why we've got the mysterious thing. The interesting thing is I think that most comes out around people who meet you in a career environment. I think actually the people who meet you socially or around love, they actually see this combination, the idealistic, powerful idealist and the great communicator. Even if you're sometimes very quiet, so you're very measured in what you say, you come across as both a guardian angel and a challenger to those that are in your social group. So the guardian angel is the protective one who understands the change and understands the ideals. The challenger is the one who will have the debate with people or really try and bring people up to what they could be. But the energy of these two combined is very much, you're going to help people. You're not going to critique them. You're not going to do subtle pull downs or any of those things that passes for helping people. Like, you really are looking at this from a perspective of them having that same ambition and that same confidence that they could get to where they are. So I think that you're very, I do think the banter and things like that could come up around particularly romantic relationships, and there's a little bit of almost like a power couple energy around what could happen with that. But I think more generally in terms of your social energy, there's a sense that you want people to really start to live up to their potential, but you'll be protective in the way that you do it. And you use your communication skills and your analytical skills and all of that kind of thing to do it. And it's interesting, therefore, when we've got Pluto, which is a bit revolutionary, so there's a sort of a change energy that you have in your social life, even more so around career, because we've got the remote revolution. So this is maybe the quiet time. You may either work from home or be looking to do that more, or even in some way facilitating it. You might be very good with AI or tech or something like that. But there's a sense of, like, you can see, I think you have a sense of what's coming around career, around vocation, around business. And you see the shift before it comes. It feels quite Aquarian. You don't have to have Aquarius strong in your chart, but it has an Aquarian feeling to it. There's also the career chameleon, so you can change. This is why I go right back to saying that story about the fact that there are many roads that can take you to your light on the hill. You know that instinctively, and you come across as someone. So I wouldn't be surprised around career that a lot of people can see that you have a capacity to reach very far, possibly not even needing to travel to do it, but reach very far, and you can bring change and see the future. I think they also can see you'd probably have a fairly diverse resume. Or if you're still studying or whatever, there's a kind of a diversity to what you're studying and the various things you could do with it. So you've got a lot of transferable skills. You're not too worried about what jobs get you where you want to go, just as long as you get where you want to go. So that's the sort of energy that comes across. But there's a high degree of idealism with it as well too. But some people, particularly around career, might not think, I don't really know. I'm sure they do know what their light on the hill is, but you know what, I'm not really sure I know what it is. But they're able to fit in with a lot of environments. So that's going on for you. So you're doing for yourself there, I think, what you do for others on a personal level. So okay, let's get a little bit more detail with tarot. So we're firstly going to ask a bit more about what stands out about you when you first walk in a room or when people are first introduced to you. We're going to ask what people get right, and we're also going to ask what people get wrong about you in that first impression. So firstly, what really stands out about you when you first walk in the room? Six of Cups. Oh, this is the guardian angel, nurturing energy. Seven of Swords reversed. Five of Swords. Three of Swords. Wow, this is all this mercurial energy coming out. Nine of Swords reversed. Yeah. Six of Coins reversed. All right. So very interesting to have the two sixes on either side here, because the Six of Cups is like there's sort of nostalgia, there's nurturing, there's caring, all of that kind of thing. You come across with this guardian angel energy distinctly. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if many people who come to this reading in between lives literally are a guardian angel. So there could be some people who are almost, without even knowing it, connecting up on that sort of energy that you've had for them in other lives or whatever. But there's something, you also kind of trigger some sort of a reminiscence or a nostalgia in some way. So for some of you, there might be something about the way you talk in particular, communicate, the way that you dress or something like that brings back sort of nostalgia. Like you might almost seem very genteel or very polite or something. I don't know. There's sort of something that triggers something like that. But what you also do with the Six of Coins reversed is that you come across as a kind of an equal to people. You're not putting yourself above others. So and this is why the challenger thing works with the guardian angel, because what can go wrong with the challenger energy is it can appear or can come across like you consider yourself better and you're sitting in judgment of people. But you don't. Right from the beginning, you don't give off a sense. It's much more like, you're these two kids together, like exploring and helping each other. Much more like that than you're considering yourself one level above and you're kind of being beneficent and giving your judgment. And it's a very nuanced thing, but you have to be very careful of it, and you're very good at that. You're very good at that. The rest of this is all around the communication energy in the mind. You do come across, it's very much, you come across strongly from the way that you speak, the ideas that you give, all of that kind of thing. People would probably think you live a lot in your head, and you probably do. Not that there's anything wrong with that, she says defensively when she lives a lot in her head. But, you know, like people do think that about you. They think you're very realistic. They think that you don't, this is, again, you can move. If you're going down one particular pathway, whether it's career or love, whatever it is, and it's just not working, and there's an alternative, then you're prepared to leave. It doesn't affect you to say, well, if that pathway didn't work, I'm going to fail. You don't have that sense at all. You understand you're going to have sort of reversals and blocks and everything. You know how to do it. You might come across as a little bit like someone, you might even have, depending upon if anything's been said about you before you turn up, you might come across as having a little bit of a sad story, but that you've risen above it with the Three of Swords. For some, you may be meeting in a work situation because you've just left a job, so you're meeting recruiters or networking. For others, you might meet someone who could be a prospective partner after you've broken up, because there's something here about a pain that you carry with you. But I feel for some that might be a reputation even before you move in, because I feel like you're pretty well adjusted. And in fact, with the Knight of Swords reverse, it's kind of like people might know about that, but they think that you don't seem to worry about it. You can live in your head but not be worrying all the time. And so you deal with reversals really, really well. So I feel like for some of you, whether it's around career or whether it's friends talking about you before you meet someone, that there is almost a story about you where you rose above something that was painful or difficult, or a block, career or love-wise or whatever. But you've retained this sense of joy, innocence, and you still see people as equals. It's like there's no bitterness around it. So, okay, let's have a look at what they get right about you. King of Wands reversed. Seven of Coins reversed. Ace of Cups reversed. Seven of Wands reversed. It's very interesting with the energy that you actually have. Three of Cups, but this is right. Okay, so there is something, I think for most of the people who've come here, if you've come to the right reading, there has been something that's happened that could have broken your heart, that could have made you doubt yourself. Like they're right about that. So they either pick it up in something you say. You may even do that. You may even, if you're talking to someone about, like how they can challenge themselves and move forward and become something, you may actually tell them stories about what didn't work for you and what you did about it. Like when you didn't become the sort of the star of the show, it sort of broke your heart a bit. You'd put effort into something that didn't work, and how you had to get the courage to move towards something that would. Like I almost think like you have a story. This might be the Mercury and Mercury. It's like you could run a podcast and you could be talking about, this didn't work for me, but you know what? I learned all these things from it, and now I'm heading here, and I can see how, in fact, this is actually going to help me in my longer-term goal. It feels like something like that. Or this relationship didn't work, but I understand really that it wouldn't have been a celebration had it worked. So I just think you've got a story that either you tell or that other people will talk about you before you get there that impacts how people see you. But it's a story of not redemption, because it's not like you've done anything wrong, but it's a story of rising above the odds, and that you're still only on your journey. So it's kind of like people will listen to you about this because you really have walked the talk, sorry. So they're right about that. There's something in your story about a lost love, a lost opportunity, something that didn't play out, but in a weird way, you've looked at it as a learning and something. When they say rejection is protection, like the guardian angel sort of energy there, and you can give the same thing to other people. This is how you can challenge people without them feeling a loss. Because if you failed at something, but you've picked yourself up and you're using that, it's actually going to make you successful later. You're in a situation where you are talking to people as equals. You're saying, hey, I've screwed up as well. Like this happens. We all do it. We learn from it. It's far less challenging in a negative way than someone who's just been really successful who says, here's my recipe, just do this. Like it allows people to be much more equals. It allows them to make mistakes, all of that kind of thing. There's something very comforting in a way about the fact that you're prepared to talk about that and retain the ideals and be able to use this to change. Very interesting. So let's have a look at what they get wrong. about you. Because it's possible, as I say, if many times people have heard the story a bit before, then they could get more wrong than right, you know, if they're going by that. I mean, they're right about this, but let's see what they get wrong. King of Swords, Nine of Wands, Eight of Swords, the Emperor. Okay. Because you're so articulate, you're so quick, you're so clever, they may think you're almost too clever, and they may think it's a form of being bossy. So this is where the challenger thing could be an issue, like particularly around love. Be aware of that. I think if you can share where things haven't worked for you and make it that kind of journey, it'll be better. But there could be some that meet you and they just think you're too clever by half, you know, and they're just, and you're going to be bossy as a result of it. They may also think that you get sort of a bit obsessed with something and you just keep pushing through, and that you'll push others if it's necessary to get there. Because this sort of energy, particularly around romance, it could be a kind of energy for a power couple. Now, when you're working with someone, when you're in love with someone and you're working on that kind of like power couple energy, it can work really well if both support each other's strengths and weaknesses and understand them and work well together. But if one appears to be more bossy or whatever, that can be a problem. So I think this might be more likely to come out around the personal energy. Others may also, you want people to see you as equals. You want them to be equals. Some may get it wrong and think you were always going to be the boss and always the sort of like on that kind of thing. So they may not fully get the advantage of what you're trying to offer because they think that you'll always intellectually dominate and that it'll always be just one step away, like they just can't reach what you do. So I think there's a lot in this. I think this challenger energy turns up a little bit in both career and in love, because I feel like it's a very tricky energy to have. It's good in many ways if you do genuinely use it to support someone, but it can so easily come across as critique. And if you're not very sure, sometimes it can be that. So I think with your energy, it's not, but I think it could be misunderstood. Okay, so let's use some oracle decks to get a little bit more information. So I have a deck that shows feelings. So I want to show feelings that you evoke in this first impression. And they can be positive and connect with all that's good, or it could pick up some of this other stuff as well. So it's just, this is not necessarily right or wrong about you. It's just to understand how you come across in a first impression, you know, how people respond to it emotionally rather than, you know, intellectually or what they've thought through. So we get hurt. Okay, yes, some might be hurt by this. Some may take your wish to sort of like either tell your story and then say, hey, you know, I know that. They might even find that. They might even find that anything that suggests that they're wrong or they're lesser than, or they feel that it's lesser than, they may feel hurt. Others actually I'm feeling could be an empathy. If you do have a heartbreaking story, they just might feel it for you. It sort of depends on who you're talking to and what it's about. Happy. Others are very happy with what you do. So some think, yes, this is the person I've been looking for. This is the person I can connect to. This is my guardian angel and my power couple. This is my person who's going to help me work out how to get to where I want to go in my career or whatever it is. Romantic. Some are going to be very drawn to you, very attracted to you. Because it is a very attractive energy. It's a very nice energy. And there could be, as I say, it's almost like you've got a romantic story about you on one level or another that almost precedes you. Because I don't see you just sort of sitting there and just telling everybody about this. I feel like it's almost known about you in many cases. And envious. Some will be envious of you. Envious of your freedom, envious of how far you've gone, envious of your skills. So yeah, there's a bit of a mixed thing. Some be very happy and drawn to you. Some might be really empathizing with you. Others might be feeling kind of hurt, like the critique. And some may be feeling envious. So you kind of get the gamut of feelings. So let's have a look at 3 personality aspects that people see in you, and both the positive and the negative ways that they could look at it when they first meet you, first come across you. Pile 3. Causality. Okay. This is all the mental stuff. Like, for some people, particularly people who are very much live in their heads and like logic and everything, they will think you're very reasonable. What you're saying is reasonable. Like it's like it makes a lot of sense. Some will not want to see it. Some will think it's illogical. They'll think the exact opposite. If they have a particular belief and it's like one way and that's the only way to do it, they're going to find it illogical to sort of say that there are many ways to get somewhere. And some may think you're irrational. So I think it has to do with the kind of the side of the emotion and then the side of the kind of chameleon. Some in the mystery, I think that people who don't understand you may think you're irrational or illogical because you're very reasonable. But it's sort of like if people find you mysterious, then they're not going to listen to the reason. They're not even going to accept that it's there. Then we get taste. Okay, so some will think you've got great taste. Some will think you savor life and savor everything. Others will think that maybe you have preferences, a predilection. So this could be this, like what are your preferences? What sort of people do you prefer? And some with blandness might think you're not to their taste. But that's all right. That's the case. Doesn't matter, does it? You're on your journey. That's the good thing about you. It wouldn't bother you that much. And veneration. Okay, they think that you do have a light on the hill that you're going to. You're devoted to what you do. I think it's also with the guardian angel. If you care about someone, you're very caring. You're very devoted. All of those things. But some may think it's almost idolatry. Some might think that you want people to follow you. Like almost in a bit of a cult-like way, and you're not doing that, but some may think that, particularly if they're envious of you. If you seem to have people that are following you and seeing you as the person to come to and all that kind of thing, they might think, it's just idolatry, that kind of thing. Sacrilegious also, they may feel that what you're doing and how you're doing things, and the career chameleon side of things, like if you are very changeable, like somehow it's sacrilegious, like you're not devoted enough. They're not understanding that there's a goal and there's many ways to get to the goal. Okay, so let's also have a look at what spiritual energy you exude in the first encounter. Archangel Sandalphon, music, Earth Star, Answer Prayers, Guardian Angel, Answer Prayers. For some people, you absolutely are the Guardian Angel, definitely, and you bring a sense of music and balance to what they do. So, and I think there is a sense of being earthy and grounded, and it's not about competition with you. So that's very powerful. And Archangel Michael, the guardian angel, big time. Clarity, protection, truth. Yeah, this is the mind. You speak the truth. You speak the truth. And some people are going to respond badly to it and see it as critique rather than support. But I would always say be very careful of that energy. Be very careful of the audience and be always very clear on what's going on. Because we're all human and we can be in a situation where we think we're just critiquing to help people, but we're actually doing it to almost process something for ourselves. And I think you're the sort of person I can say that to, that you'll see it and you'll be able to deal with it. But sometimes it's going to be misunderstood and you just have to be aware of that. Okay, let's get you some stars to guide you as well, pile 3. Mercury. Oh, what a surprise. Sometimes Spirit makes me laugh. The double Mercury to start with, the Mercury here, very, very clever. You're very, very clever. Very mercurial. Mercurial is also the chameleon thing, appear to be, and that could be misunderstood sometimes, is when people might think you're sacrilegious. Like, I thought you really believed in this and now you're doing that, if they haven't understood what the true belief is. And then we have Jupiter. You're meant to be successful, you're meant to expand, you're meant to help others expand, you're very benevolent. But Jupiter can be too much too. So it's sort of like you need to make sure it's the right balance with people. The right balance of guardian angel to critique. The right balance of revolution to chameleon, that kind of energy. The right balance of being quiet or being mysterious. That's probably your biggest challenge because you're so flexible but a lot of other people aren't. And the third house, communication. I definitely think you should be working in communication in some way with all this mercurial stuff. There's so many ways that you could, but I definitely think communication is what you're here for. It's the thing that's going to work the strongest for you. Okay, to finish off, we're just going to get a card from the Blue Dragonfly for any kind of wild card energy around this for you. So anything that that adds either to what your first impression is or gives you some advice about dealing with the first impression, whatever Spirit seems to want to say to you. Let's create willpower, manifestation, manipulation. Okay, so this is the thing, it's saying the whole thing. Like, you have a strong will. That's why I know you're going to reach the top of that mountain. Whoever has come to this, I know whatever your long-term goal is, you're going to reach. I have absolutely no doubt. But some people understand what you're doing because you'll be very flexible in how you do it, and other people won't understand it. Some people will think that ability, that incredibly sharp mind, that incredible communication skill is manipulation. There's not much you can do about that, I don't think. It's not what you're doing, but it will help you sift through who to connect with. Others will see its power and manifestation. Others will see how it can open up their willpower and how people can create together. True creators are collaborative, and they don't put themselves above, so that's the energy, that's the people that you need to connect with. And so don't be too worried with the people who don't get it, because more people will get it than not, because you're very, very good at the communication of it. So I hope that resonates for you. I hope you enjoyed it. If so, please like the video and subscribe. If you care to share in the comments, I'd love to hear. Otherwise, I hope to see you in future readings.